Hey, first grade families, it's Mrs. O'Hare, and I'm back with Skinnybones. All right, guys, Chapter 4. For me, the worst part about belonging to Little League is the uniform. Every year at first practice, the same thing happens. The coach shouts out your name, and you have to yell out what size you wear. Right in front of everyone. I mean, you have to either yell large, medium, or small. This year, there was a total of 12 kids on my team, and the way it looked to me, there would probably be 2 larges, 9 mediums, and 1 eensy weensy, itsy bitsy, practically the size of a baby might wear. Me. Every single year, I am always the smallest on the team. I mean it. For the first 5 years of my life, I thought I was a leprechaun. I remember when I was in kindergarten, our teacher asked us to cut out magazine pictures of what we want to be when we grew up. Most of the boys in my class brought pictures of baseball or football players. Others brought in pictures of policemen or firemen. I brought in a picture of the Lucky Charms guy. I cut it off the front of the cereal box. My teacher was pretty worried about it too. She called me up to her desk right away. "Alex, what is this a picture of?" she asked. "It's the Lucky Charms guy." She closed her eyes. "That's what I was afraid of." "Oh, you don't have to be afraid of the Lucky Charms guy, Miss Hurley," I said. "He gets on your nerves, but he's totally not dangerous." Mrs. Hurley shook her head. "No, Alex. What I don't understand is why would you want to be a leprechaun?" "I don't. I want to be a pilot," I said. "Then why did you bring this picture?" asked Miss Hurley. "Because that's what I'm going to be," I explained. "That's what you told us to do, right? You said, bring in a picture of what we are going to be when we grow up." Mrs. Hurley called my mother. As soon as I walked in the door that afternoon, Mom sat me right down, and we had a long talk about being small. "Alex, I know that you think you're too short, but that's only because you haven't started your growth spurt yet. Everyone grows at different speeds, but believe me, you are going to grow. I promise." She took me by the hand and led me to the kitchen. Then she stood me up against the wall near the corner and told me not to move. At first, I thought this was some weird punishment that she had read about in one of those parenting magazines, but instead, she got a pencil and she made a mark on the wall right at the very top of my head. When I moved away, she wrote the date on it. "Okay," she said, "just to prove that you're growing, we're going to measure you every 6 months. That way, you'll be able to see the change for yourself." Well, all I can say is 6 months is a really long time, especially when you're worried about having to go flitting around the country dancing a jig in a green top hat. When the day finally came to measure me again, I was nervous as anything. My mother stood up against the wall in the same spot where I had been measured before. Then she carefully made another mark. Pencil mark. I turned and I looked. Half an inch. I had grown almost a half an inch. I started jumping around all over the place. Mom looked as relieved as me. "Now do you believe me?" she asked. "Does this prove to you that you're getting taller?" "Yeah," I said. "Now all I have to do is gain some weight and grow big feet, and I'll practically be a real boy." My mother threw her hands up in the air in frustration. "I give up, Alex. I give up. I swear you are never satisfied." Sometimes she doesn't understand me at all. Being small is not an easy thing to be, especially when you're in Little League and you have to shout out your size of clothing, your uniform size, in front of your whole entire team. "Alex Frankovich," called my coach. "Small, medium, or large?" No, I couldn't. I just couldn't shout small. Not in 6th grade. I swallowed hard. Then I made my voice as deep as I could, and I yelled, "Large!" I swallowed, large. The coach looked up and gave me an eyeball. The eyeball kind of looked at me funny. "Excuse me, son, but did you say large?" "Yes, sir, large. That's what I said. Alex Frankovich says large." "Are you sure, Mr. Frankovich? Are you absolutely positively sure that large is the size you'd like to order?" he persisted. Yep, I am. I absolutely, positively, surely am. Large. That's the size I order. I order a large. Alex Frankovich orders a large. The coach rolled his eyes and shook his head. I'm pretty sure I heard him mutter, "Bean brain." I really didn't care what he thought. The important thing was, finally, after all these years, I hadn't had to shout out the word small. I couldn't wait for the day the uniforms came in. I was sure that it would be the best day of my life. I even had dreams about it. In my dream, the coach had all the uniforms arranged in 2 piles, smalls and larges, and he was calling out the names. As soon as you heard your name, you had to go to the correct pile and pick up your uniform. "Alex Frankovich, large," he announced, loud as anything. I stood up real cool. Then I strolled over to the large pile, chose my pants, chose my shirt, and when I got home, I found out that mine was the only uniform in the large pile. The only one. Get it? All the other guys were smalls. And here's where it gets good. Because when I reached out to pick up my large shirt, the whole team jumped up and started cheering because of how large I was. It was the best dream I ever had, I swear. And when the team uniforms finally came in after 3 whole weeks of waiting, at least part of my dream was about to come true. I would have a large shirt. I was the first kid at practice that day. When I arrived, my coach was already arranging everything in piles. My head started pounding like crazy. It was just like my dream. I felt as if I had seen into the future or something. As soon as he finished, the coach told us to line up single file. Then one by one, we were to go to the correct pile and pick out our uniform. I had to admit, this wasn't quite as good as if he had announced my name and my size. But still, all I cared about was getting my large. As soon as it was my turn, I rushed right over and grabbed a large shirt and a pair of pants. The sort of thing that then I sort of hung around the large pile for a while just to make sure that everybody would notice. Excuse me. Finally, when all the piles were gone, the coach told us to check our uniforms and make sure we had the right size. That's when I heard some guys starting to laugh. When I turned around, I saw Randy Tubbs was trying to put his new shirt over his head. It was stuck on his ears, and his eyes were bulging out where it was cutting off. I'm sorry, guys. And his eyes were bulging out where it was cutting off his circulation. The coach helped Randy pull up his shirt, and he looked inside to see what size it was. "This is a small, Randy. You're supposed to have a large." Randy shrugged. "It's all that was left," he said. Right away, the coach started looking on his list, trying to figure out what had happened. This wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. Slowly, I started backing off the field, but the coach spotted me. "Alex, hold it. Wait. Would you bring your uniform here for a minute, please?" I felt sick. Sicker than I had ever felt before. But there was nothing I could do except go back. Reluctantly, I handed him my shirt and pants and pointed at the tag. "See, Coach, see? It's large. Just like you ordered for me," I said. The coach shook his head. "Alex, I ordered you a small. A large would eat you up and spit you out." Then he gave my uniform to Randy and handed me this teensy, itsy bitsy, practically the size of a baby would wear, small. It was one of the lowest moments of my life. When I got home, I went to my room and I tried it on. Thanks to Randy and his giant dome, the neck was all stretched out and it drooped down to my stomach. My mother came in and told me not to worry. She said that the shirt would probably shrink when it was washed. As soon as she left, my pants fell down too. All right, guys, I'll read another chapter in just a minute.